Thank you very much, Prabhu, and thank you very much for taking the role of chairing this conference. So you will help us to stay on track, and this is very important and very much appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to the 8th Global Peter Drucker Forum. We have here more than 500 people in the room, and we have several hundreds on the live stream, and there will be a lot of communication going on during the conference via Twitter and via other means. So I believe it will be quite visible. It's always a humbling experience to open the Global Peter Drucker Forum. When we started 8 years ago, we didn't know what it might become and where it would go. We had no specific plan. But the one thing we knew, we didn't want to do something which is a conventional conference. It should be something different. It's about bringing thought leaders, practice leaders together and building a community of people who care not only about business, but who care about society as a whole. And I think that's in the spirit of Peter Drucker. And as you know, to make society function, management is a must for running, on the one hand, well, what we already understand, but even more challenging and difficult, to drive the incessant process of change, transformation, renewal, and innovation that is essential in business, but also in our lives. What happens in management is not determined by laws of nature, as you know. It is something that we shape. There's this famous quote, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." It's attributed to Peter Drucker. It's not really his quote, but it works well for him. So I'm using it in this sense. It's about shaping the future. In today's world, when you look around, we have our share of daunting challenges. I don't need to name them all, but mass migration, growing inequalities, aging population in the developed world, debt crisis, terrorism, and you name it. When you scan the news, it's not a good experience these days. You have the impression the total planet is in total disarray. At the same time, I would like to point out, when we take a step back and look at the human condition from a historical context, we get a very, very different picture. For the longest period in human history, the vast majority of people on Earth lived at really subsistent levels, poverty, lacking basic hygiene, medical support, and education, and in perpetual fear of violence. And normally they died young. We have experienced in the last 250 years an amazing change. It's really astounding. Even though for many parts of the world, there's still a long way to go. But we are now in a situation, at least, where even in the developing world, we can feed a population in a size that Malthus would not have imagined in his wildest dreams. So overall, there has been huge progress in the last 250 years. And much can be said about the causes of this unprecedented surge in income and improvement in living conditions for the masses. But for sure, key factors are human ingenuity that were dramatically unleashed and enhanced by technological breakthroughs and advances in governance. Along with several technology revolutions, the latest, of course, being the digital revolution, institutional innovations such as the concept of limited liability to enable risk-taking and the facilitation of an increasing global trade have empowered many, many individuals to participate in creating the future. Yet, and I think that's important to say today here in Vienna, yet it was not financial capitalism that changed the world in this radical way, but it was entrepreneurial innovation that is so effectively spurred by competitive markets. Even the term capitalism moves our attention in the wrong direction. Capital is a means to an end, but entrepreneurs are the ones seeing the opportunities and driving innovation. This must be particularly emphasized in Vienna, not only the city of Peter Drucker, but also the city of Schumpeter. And he was the one who saw the entrepreneur as the driving force of modern economy. The rise of entrepreneurial and innovation-oriented forces was not confined to business. Taking different forms, that same entrepreneurial energy has driven transformative change in governments and civil society. After all, democracy itself has been a most impactful societal innovation, a giant step forward for humanity in self-governance, individual freedom, and human rights. It's obvious, on the other hand, ladies and gentlemen, that at this point of history, in this point in time, the engine of progress is sputtering. We seem to be caught in a web of our own complexity, as we should have learned from two devastating world wars. We can never consider ourselves safe from the cataclysmic breakdowns unless we mobilize the forces for self-renewal. We cannot rest on our laurels. We are challenged day by day, and leaders have to make judicious choices wherever they stand. Shaping the future, creating the future is not easy. It's hard work. It requires courage, tenacity, and ingenuity. Technology was a key factor in the last 250 years. Today, we are very fearful, increasingly fearful about technology, that it will destroy the fabric of society by making humans redundant, with machines taking over work, including knowledge work. At the same time, I think we have to keep in mind the vast improvements in education, virtually unlimited access to the world's knowledge, and the formation of networked communities spanning the globe. We have now in our hands a creative potential that is totally unprecedented in history. Collectively, finding ways to harness and unleash what's best in humanity, the passion to create and the desire to contribute to a common cause, is at the core of the entrepreneurial society. The challenge, we as managers know that the challenge is the how. How can we make it work? How can we manage the tradition towards this huge potential where I believe we have not even scratched the surface yet? With this gathering of eminent thinkers and practitioners, I hope a contribution can be made to move the needle in the right direction, not to provide simple answers, but the right questions and ideas that many of you can take back and apply in their specific setting. In this sense, I wish to you, to us all, an inspiring conference. Thank you for joining. Thank you for engaging in the Drucker Forum.